So entering coursework, we get a lot of questions about entering coursework. Like Dr. James said, the easiest way to go about this is to have your unofficial transcript next to you while you fill it in. It has to be accurate. It has to be correct. They are going to verify it. So if you enter it incorrectly, they will catch it, but you want to make that process easier. Some application services have a course entry service, so you can pay, usually it's about $50 to $100, and they will enter it for you, but that takes time. So if you are planning to have that done for you, if you are applying through AACOMAS or PTCAS, the CASPA will do it as well, you'll have to have that done. You will want to start that process as soon as possible because it will take them weeks to enter that for you, and it does cost money. Everything must be reported. Just like if you do not send a transcript, if you do not enter coursework, it can have the same unintended ramifications. If you retook a course, you still need to include the first attempt. It does not matter what the institutional policy was. Every instance, every attempt of every course must be included. Every application system has a guide. It's a lengthy guide. If you Google, if you're applying to AMCAS and you Google AMCAS instructions, there will be a step-by-step guide with how to enter coursework specifically, with questions like, what does AP IB credit, what is it categorized as? What is dual enrollment categorized as? Many of them are first semester of college, but you'll want to check that instruction manual for each of the application servicers, and they'll walk you through that. Foreign credit is sometimes tricky, so make sure you're seeing exactly how they want you to code that. Only some programs have an academic update option. So like Dr. James said, most applications, once you click submit, that's it. That is what you sent them. The day you submit your application, you should feel confident in the application you submitted. You should not be saying to yourself, well, I have 6 more months before my interview, or 8 more months before I plan to start. The day you submit your application may potentially be the only thing they see. Even if there is an academic update window where you're able to go in and update your grades, they may have already made a decision. They may have already filled all of their interview spots by that time. You should feel comfortable with the application that you have submitted on the day that you click submit. There's just an example here of what one of the systems may look like, but it is very detailed. Make sure you have time set aside to enter these in, because you will be entering in every single course one at a time. For AMCAS, this is an older example, but it looks pretty much the same still, of what this will look like, right? When they look at it, this is what they see. They see every institution, they see every year that it was taken, they see every single course, the credit hours, and the grade. And they'll get pages and pages of this. And then really why this matters, the GPA. The overall and science GPA are very important, but they're also going to look at all different types of GPA. If anyone has been in the AMCAS application or in any of these other application services, you can actually see it will break down your GPA into many different areas, including freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, post-bac, undergrad, grad. It will be all science, all other, meaning not science. It will be your totals for all of those different categories. You may have upwards of 16 different types of GPA or more that they are looking at. They are focusing on science, but that is not to say that they are not going to consider all of the other GPAs, especially because that helps to show a trend. That's why they'll break it down into freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. They can see, did you do better over time? Did you do worse over time? Did you do better when you had higher course loads, or worse when you had higher course loads? They will be dissecting your GPA in many different ways. GPA calculations will take 3 to 6 weeks after your transcripts have been received to be verified. So again, they have to verify your transcripts to make sure that information is correct so that they can then verify what your GPAs will be, right? So the GPA you may calculate or the overall GPA you may have may be different than your GPA for these systems. Why? They may not honor grade forgiveness, right? You in your mind may have, when you hand calculated your science GPA, you may have forgotten a few courses that were science. Or maybe you added in courses in engineering which are not considered science. Or maybe you added in public health courses thinking those were science and those are generally not. So the GPAs that are going to be official will take some time after your transcripts have been received so that they can actually calculate those courses. With the exception being the Texas Medical and Dental Application System. If you do not know, Texas, right, everything's bigger in Texas, so they have their own application service solely for Texas. And so Texas has a running calculation. Remember that plus and minus grades are different as well. Those will affect your GPA if you have a plus or a minus. They are looking, like I said, for those trends upward, downward. They're looking for trends in withdrawals. Do you have lots of withdrawals, not as many withdrawals? Were your semesters rigorous, right? If you have a 4.0 your entire freshman GPA, but you only took one science each semester a freshman year, and then you have a 3.5 GPA for the rest of your semesters, and that's where you took a lot of science, what is that going to indicate to them? Probably that the more accurate GPA is the one from your upperclassmen years where you took more science, right? Because they're not so interested in can you do one science at a time. They're interested in can you do many sciences at a time. Remember, most will not look at grade forgiveness, with the exception being AACOMAS and optometry. So DO and optometry, everyone else will not honor grade forgiveness. Some schools may individually calculate, right? You see that they get every single grade you ever took, or every single course, right? We showed you that example. They have the option to recalculate on their own, but I would not bank on it.